Yes, I say I'm responsible for school partnerships for Victoria and South Australia. So essentially, it's my job to go out and speak to and register schools on the program. But I have two daughters, two teenage daughters. So when they were at primary school, the following project came and did a presentation there. And there was nothing for the dads. You know, I think dads were on the periphery of the community, weren't really connected to what was going on. And I really felt that myself. So I decided to do something about it. So inspired by that presentation, they sold the idea for a dad's group. So I reached out to a few other dads that I knew, and we started it up and started organizing activities for dads and kids and dads only. And it made me a better dad over the years. So I'm just so passionate about the work. So I started volunteering for the following project a few years ago, and now I've come on board full time in Victoria. I used to work in corporate, but as I say, it's time to move on from that. So I'm really happy to be in this role and doing something I'm very passionate about and something meaningful. So yeah, a lot of the work we've done is in Victoria. We've just recently moved into South Australia. Like we've registered our first school there. We're talking to the SA Department of Education and potentially being one of the programs recommended on their upcoming parent engagement and learning project, which I'm sure you're aware of. So talking to the department there, and we should know something in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, exciting times for South Australia. So
who's your
we're
school
keen to make some progress there this year.
Who's your school that you're working at? The one school that's
The
currently...
first school, Gavin, it's Kangaroo Flat Primary School, a state school. Josh Anderson is the principal there, but he also sits on the SA Primary Principals Association Executive Board. So he's really passionate about getting it started in his school or in his, I forget the name of the local area partnership. It'll come to me, but there's a bit, you'll probably think it's C something, SEAC. I can't remember the full name.
Terry, are you typing this?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Might be South East.
It's recording now.
We'll find out.
Wow.
We'll track them down. And Terry, you were saying that when it was first presented, when your daughters were at school. So where are you at the moment? You're in...
I'm based in Melbourne, Gavin.
Now?
I live in the inner eastern suburbs, yeah.
Right. But you were in Perth at the time, is that, have I got that right?
No, I've always been based in Melbourne. It's the following project, you're right, started in Perth, but in recent years, it's expanded nationally. Now, we got some federal government funding about 2 years ago. So that's through the Department of Health and Social Services. So that's enabled us to expand the program nationally and employ people like me full-time in each state. But we're headquartered now in Sydney because there's a big focus on the Eastern Seaboard now as well. So there's been a lot of changes occurred in the last year or so, yeah, since I've come on board.
So it's blossoming, obviously, but with regards to how it started in Perth, what was where did it come from, and what was the initial growth in Perth?
Sure, it was started by a man called Bruce Robinson. He's a doctor based at the Queen Elizabeth II Hospital in Perth. So he's he treats men with lung cancer. So a lot of his terminally ill male patients, he maybe only had 6 or 12 months left to live. When he had to give them that news, it upset him greatly that the majority said that they regretted working too hard, not spending enough time with their kids, and they wished that somebody had told them so. So that inspired him to start up the charity just over 10 years ago. So basically, it was decided, I mean, the core purpose is to improve children's outcomes, like their social and emotional well-being, their learning outcome. So it was decided that the best way to do that was through dads and father figures. So when I talk about dads, we're talking about all father figures, grandparents or like grandfather, uncle, male family friend. So a lot of the work we've done up until now has been through the school system. So what we're good at is building communities of dads. Like mums are already well engaged, in general, and doing a lot of the volunteering and communication between the home and the school. But of course, more and more dads are engaged now. Like I speak to a lot of principals like yourself, and there's so many more dads now volunteering at school council, parents association and so on. So, but not every dad, of course, wants to maybe serve in that capacity. I know I wasn't someone who was really motivated to serve in that, so I was looking for some other way to contribute.
Yep.
So the dads group was a great way for me to come in, and once I came in through the dads group, it opened up a lot of other opportunities around volunteering and contributing in the classroom and so on and so on. So I suppose that's the background to it. Now, we have about 500 registered schools on the dads group program at the moment, and that's growing rapidly. And basically it's a self-supporting group. Like, I'm sure you get inundated with requests to establish new programs at your school, and the last thing you need is another one to run. So this is a self-supporting group. So basically, it's dads at the school who volunteer to be what we call dads group leaders, and it's those dad volunteers that actually run the activities, overseen by the school. Like, the school would appoint a coordinator for the program, to support those dad volunteers, help promote it across the school community. But it's those dads that actually come up with the ideas for events and actually organize them. And where we come in, we put that infrastructure around those dads and support them with all of the tools and resources, all of the ideas for events, how to organize and run them and how to promote them. And we mentor them and train them. And like, there's an annual fee for that service. It's $1,000 plus GST, but you get a lot for that. Like, there's the dads group program, which was the original program. We've also added the family school partnership element to it as well. So that's for you in the schools. It's to help you, say, as a school leadership team, achieve your well-being and community engagement goals, like through your annual implementation plan, your school improvement plan. So we provide you with an online tool which enables you to assess and audit how well you're going with your family school partnership activities. It'll analyze, as I say, and audit them, and then produce an action plan, like identifying some areas where you can improve. So you can integrate that into your strategic planning process as well. And then the dads group leaders, we give them access to an online portal, which is like a one-stop shop, like for all things fathering, and that houses all of the resources and tools as well. So there's a lot there, and I'll send you information, which explains the breakdown of what you get, for that. But there's a lot of support to ensure that it remains sustainable over the long term, because change doesn't happen overnight. It took me a couple of years to really get the dads group going at our school. And it's all about that partnership between the dads and the school, like the school leadership having their endorsement and support, the school council, the parents association, and so on. It's very much a whole school approach, to getting, more dads involved, like in support of their kids. So I suppose that's high level, what it looks like. And this, like, I've got a bit of a presentation I was going to take you through, Annie, but we've started the conversation, but I'll probably bring it up on the screen if you like, and it'll fill in the gaps a bit more. Yep. But fire away, like, the questions. If you've any other questions that you want to throw at me in the meantime, go ahead.
Terry, I just wanted to confirm that the Knights, or many of the branches across South Australia, are looking at doing this as an adjunct to the things that we currently do for our different communities, but sort of like as a bit of a state type setup. And that's why Don Campbell was going to be here, being the state chairman. He was going to have a look at it as well. And generally, at Mount Barker Strathalbyn branch, we're going to be sponsoring this at our local college. But yeah, there's other branch chairmen like myself that are asking, what does it entail and what does it involve and all that sort of stuff. So hence, it's great to have this recorded sort of thing, so I can get it off to the other chairmen so that they can see what's involved.
Sure. Okay. Great. Well, yes.
You go, Terry.
I'll just bring up this presentation. Anyway, I'll just share the screen.
Well, just while you're doing that, I was just going to say,
go ahead.
Our board too is probably, so I've taken this to the college board and shared the written documentation that I presume came from you through Mike.
Yes.
And so we have the approval of the board. We want to move forward with the project.
Oh, that's marvelous. That's brilliant, dude. Yeah.
Well, with as Mike's saying, I think the next step would be to go back because we've got some preliminary ideas and everything you're saying about you know our male caregivers' engagement with their kids' education, you know, is something that is a priority for us to grow that because we've seen a bit of a shift, I guess, in the last 12 to 18 months that we've got some more parents involved. So certainly through the board and through the board's finance committee, which is a standing committee of board, we've got good male representation. But you're right, that's not everyone's thing. And
Yeah.
The other arm we have is our parent community group, which I guess for a number of years since I've been here has been a small, probably 6 to 8 group of mothers, almost exclusively. And yet in the last year, it's blossomed into a much bigger group. Oreste actually chairs that in his role, parent community group, and it's now got a number of males.
We've got 2 males that attend, and one regularly is heavily involved in the decision making that the group has. So that's a big improvement from previous years. So we're starting to have a lot more male representation. Although small at this stage, there is a lot of interest.
But we definitely think, Terry, that there is there's a hunger for it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it, Gavin.
More people come on board with the right, you know, they're just looking for the how and a how that will allow them to connect in a way that they're able to. Because as you say, the board and the finance committee attracts a very specific type of person, I think, and wonderful servants to the college.
Absolutely.
But a different type of person to the, you know, we want a broader brush welcome, don't we? That will draw in people who perhaps feel a bit threatened or feel that they don't have the skill set or don't want to invest the amount of time that comes with those other avenues into connecting with the college. And as you say, you know, ultimately I'd like to see us running groups which then impact directly on the kids and a positive outcomes for the kids and their learning.
Yeah, that's what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it? And the stronger that partnership, of course, like with the families and tapping into that rich, you know, family knowledge on each individual child and bringing in obviously dad's perspective as well. It'll help the teaching staff no end in the classroom, you know, having that as well. So it's win-win. Yeah, you're right, for everybody. I'll just flick through. I'll give you the background already. And so I'll just quickly talk just the positive, a bit about the research, what we do in schools, okay, what the program actually looks like in action and how you can tailor it. I mean, every individual, well, obviously every school is different. So like, obviously no one's schools, it's very important that whatever program you engage with, it's got to be evidence informed, like research and backed by the research. So, you know, we have a strong research partnership with Curtin University and the University of WA, and also the Telethon Institute, you know, Professor Donna Cross, you know, the experts in wellbeing. So like the programs that we run are all informed by that research partnership that we have with those bodies. So, and obviously, as you know, the research now is overwhelming around the positive impact that a male role model, a father figure has in the life of a child, and in particular their, as I say, social and emotional well-being, their physical, their academic and learning outcomes. So it's indisputable, like that's for sure. And we also work with Steve Biddulph, Madonna King, Maggie Dent, like these parenting, fathering experts as well. So, and the research also says that the two most significant factors in protecting our kids against those risks that they may encounter is that connection they feel to their families and to their school. And I know, like from my personal experience, like once I got involved with the dad's group, started volunteering, I could see, my daughters, like they're 13 and 15 now, but I could see just their connection with me, that bond that they had with me just strengthened and deepened. And also, and the fact that I had a good relationship with their teachers and spoke positively about learning. I knew all of their friends and their friends' parents, like that's community in action. It definitely strengthened their connection to the school. There's no doubt about it. So it's all about, like we're all aware of those risks that kids face or will face, obviously mental health, substance abuse, alcohol abuse, and so on and so on. So like those risks, of course, are significantly like reduced when they have that positive like male role model in their lives. And the flip side, as we've already discussed, like all of their outcomes are significantly improved as well. So that's what we're all about, as you are too. So we're certainly aligned. Now, those dads groups that we have across the country, we survey them every year. So we're constantly like evaluating and improving our programs. So certainly like dads who are involved, like they certainly report that their kids want to spend more time with them as a result, and they're more likely to ask them for help. I know, like, I suppose kids would normally go to their mum maybe if they've got a problem at school, but once they see dad involved with the school and engaging with the teachers, then they're more likely to go and ask him for support. And I know that's been my experience as well. And the kids are more likely to open up about how they're feeling, if there's any issues with bullying, if they're struggling with their learning, or any issues with peers, they'll maybe come to dad as well as mum. It's taking that team approach to parenting and supporting our kids. So that's what the dads group will bring, and that's been my personal experience. And the research also says like that in the bottom left, that greater awareness that dads and father figures have. Like I know that was my experience. I knew like as a young dad, like when the kids were maybe 2 or 3, I certainly knew that I had an important role to play. But at that stage, I didn't fully realize the impact that I could have. So once I got involved with the dads group and started reading the books by Steve Biddulph and going to the fathering seminars run by the school, it really opened up my mind to what I could potentially do to support the kids, So it just then motivated me to get more involved with the school and start up the dads group. And as I say, it's made me a better dad and like a better man as a result. So that was the first step. And again, it's number one about the kids improving their outcomes, but it's also about dads connecting with other dads. It's about that support group and that mateship. And some of the best friends that I have made here in Melbourne are through that dads group that I started up at Camberwell Primary. And thank goodness I did. I've been through a few tough spots. I've been made redundant. I was out of work for over a year, struggled with that. But I had great support from the mates in the dads group. And one of them helped me get a new job in his company as well. So it's just, it makes a difference when you've got someone you can talk to who gets what you're going through, who's got the same issues and same challenges as well. It just makes a big difference. So yeah, there's lots of benefits on that. And I just wanted to highlight those two. What we do, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Spin-off benefits for the kids too, I'm sure. So everything that's a benefit for the male role models themselves has a flow down effect for the children, doesn't it?
Absolutely, Gavin. Like if your mental health is in a good space, well then obviously you're in better form in the family home. Like there's more harmony. Obviously the marriage is better, and you're right. It all filters down 100%. Like when you invest in that. The two elements I've talked about: the dads group and the family partnership. That's for the schools. So, okay. The fact that you want to register, fantastic, right? So the first thing you would do, and I'm sure obviously you've mentioned a couple of dads already on the parent group there. If you can identify 4 to 6 dad volunteers at the school who could form the organising committee. So basically we would work with them and train them and mentor them around how to actually set up and run the dads group. And you'd appoint an in-school coordinator. It could be your head of wellbeing. It could be yours, I don't know, or it could be someone on your team who would work with those dads group leaders and work with us at the Fathering Project. And then what we do, we'd organise a launch event at the school. So that's the official launch for the dads group. So you'd invite all of the dads along to the school. The kids would say, send home an invite to dad, right? Because like once dad gets the invite, like there's going to be very few dads who are not going to turn up. So you'll get a good turnout, maybe 50, 60 dads at least. You'll have some like maybe pizza and drinks or just tea and coffee and biscuits, whatever. And we would do a presentation and talk about the dads group, and get one of the dad volunteers from the school to get up and talk about the new dads group forming at St. Francis de Sales as well, and get them motivated and enthused to support it. And then you'd have your first, say, dads and kids event or dads only event a few weeks later. Right, so that's how you kick start it, and give it a good boost, and then we would provide that ongoing support in supporting those dads group leaders in developing their calendar of events and activities, say for 2021, we recommend one event per term. So the first term, say, it could be your dads and kids. Term 2, dads only. Like the dads only event could be, say, you know, a game of bowls at the local club and a couple of beers, like in a chat. And the dads and kids activities you could do, there's some like simple stuff. It could be, you know, pizza and bingo. It could be like making paper planes. It could be an overnight camp on the school grounds. I mean, it's up to you what you run at your school, of course, but we have lots of ideas to share with you as well. And there's also that evidence-based content that we can, you know, offer as well as part of those activities. Like there's lots of great research out there, and it's all about helping, you know, good dads be the best dads they can be. So we can, you know, like help facilitate discussion, say at your dads only events around, you know, like topics that are of interest to dads. I mean, it could be screen time, it could be building better rapport with your kids. I mean, whatever. We could send in a couple of guest speakers every year as well, like to talk, you know, on those things. So there's lots we can do. So we would adapt the program to suit your particular requirements, you know, so that's, I suppose, high level. And then the family partnership tool, I've already touched on that. You can use that as part of your strategic planning and review process. But that actually came out of a focus group we ran with principals who already had dads groups. And they were saying, like, listen, the dads group is fantastic at bringing a large cohort of dads into the school community. Yeah, but we in the school want to maximize the opportunity and have our teaching staff reach out to those dads and partner with them in supporting their kids' learning in the classroom and at home. And it could be, say, bringing dads into the classroom, reading to the kids, maybe getting dads involved on like integrated projects. Obviously, like in the dads community, there's a very broad and deep skill set. Maybe you've got dads who are very, you know, techie, you know, IT. You get involved in, like, on one of your integrated projects. There'll be dads who are, you know, tradies and so on and so on. So there's lots of ways you can bring the dad skill set and knowledge in to support the learning in the school. So as I say, you could use that tool, you know, as a way to do that there. So those are, I suppose, the two elements of the program high level. Any questions so far on that?
Terry, I just wanted to confirm, you know, the sponsorship fee of $1,100. What does that include? What's incorporated with that?
Sure, Mike. Okay, well, that includes, as I say, there's the two portals. You have all of the resources and tools that you get through those online portals. Now, we also, okay, you would register, say, through me, and then I would hand you over to, you know, a colleague of mine who would work with the dads group leaders and the in-school coordinator on getting the group up and running, you know, like identifying those dad volunteers, you know, getting them trained up around how to actually set up and run the group. And then there's that ongoing. We would also appoint a mentor who would keep in regular touch with those dads group leaders as well. Like, I mean, once a month, for example, like check in with them, like, you know, ask how they're going, like what support they need as well. But and also those couple of guest speakers that we could send in during the year as well, and all of the research that we can give them access to, you know, to facilitate those discussions as part of the dads only activities. So there's lots of resources, and I'll send you a sheet which basically explains in detail what you get. But that fee is subsidized by that federal government funding that we get. So you get a lot for that money, you know, but it's that ongoing support. It's just to ensure that it's sustainable. Like, we don't simply give you the tools and resources and leave you to it. We're in constant, you know, contact with you at the school, making sure that you've got everything you need. So yeah, there's a very strong infrastructure put around the school and the dads group.
Sounds great, Terry. What department's providing the support funding?
That has come through the DHSS. So we had, I think it was our CEO in Perth. He had I think he worked through, actually, Matthias Cormann, you know, the former finance minister there. He was instrumental in supporting us with that funding. So yeah, so we got the federal government gave us $5.4 million to roll the program out nationally. So they're very much behind it.
Okay.
Absolutely. And our board meet with them, I think, once a quarter obviously we're accountable. Like they want to see us in 1,000 schools by the end of this financial year. So,
And what are you in now?
we're at just over 500.
Mm.
But we're, as I say, moving in. Like we have been in most of the states, but we've now moved into SA, as I say, and the Northern Territory and Tasmania, as well as the other states. So we're truly national now. It's a big target, but it's achievable. Like particularly, I mean, through COVID, with schools shut down in Victoria and the other states, it was pretty difficult. Like we didn't have much success. But since schools have come back, the last 8 weeks of term 4, I registered over 40 schools alone in Victoria. So and particularly a lot of secondary schools were interested as well. Like I know you're prepped at 12 as well, and I also see on your website you're opening up a new ELC. So you're going to be covering that whole continuum, which is fantastic. So we can adapt the program to suit the primary school cohort and the secondary.
Yeah.
And we're also developing a new program for preschool also. We've had a lot of interest in Victoria from play groups like Melbourne Council, supported play groups and so on. So we're certainly moving into other areas like we have traditionally been in primary schools only. It's all about that early intervention and catching the dads early as soon as the kids start school. But there's a need, as I say, across the board.
Yeah, I think our early learning centre opened just after Australia Day. So yeah, we are now the early learning centres from 6 months, babies from 6 months. So we're now a 6 months, so really we're a birth to year 12 community now, and we certainly see some difference in primary and secondary. Across all parents, really, you see a huge drop off as we go into secondary from the level of connection and engagement.
That's right. That's what they tell me. So, and they're so keen then, it'll help with that transition, of course, from primary to secondary. When you have that drop off, so they want to, keep the parents engaged and particularly the dads. So you're right. There's a great opportunity at your school. Like, I mean, that whole continuum from, 6 months right through to year 12, and that's our vision is to support dads and kids like across all of those years. So it's great timing.
I can see the potential of, doing the work where we've actually got the contact now with families in the primary years and establishing something so strong that it's able to sustain itself where it currently drops off, when the kids go into the middle school at year 7 and we tend to lose that contact with our parents. Mainly because the kids are saying, don't come past the gate, so if you establish something so strong and so connected, that might overcome that loss that we currently feel as we go into the secondary years.
Absolutely, and I know what you're saying, and I've got 2 teenage daughters, as I say, but I think if you come up with the right activities that they want to engage with, well, obviously teenage kids, I mean, they need you more than ever, but of course they'll never tell you, they'll never be explicit about that. So if you can come up with ideas that they want to, as I say, get involved with. Like, for example, like my kids still love coming camping with me. That's what we do, a daddy-daughter camp every December between Christmas and New Year. So that's one idea that, I'm sure you've got beautiful grounds at the school there. You have a nice oval, no doubt. You could pitch the tents overnight. You could do lots of activities, like an open air movie and all that. And it's guaranteed to, as I say, bring them along. So stuff like that we can work with you on.
Questions that have come out of what you've said, Terry, if that's okay at this stage. One is around the leveraging off the size of the school group that you've got. So with 500 schools, there'd be a lot of experience already in running the program and a lot of great ideas. So do you encourage through your people who connect with us as a community to then connect us with other communities who are running dads groups and running the program so that we can learn from each other?
Well, listen, I'm glad you brought that up, Gavin, because that's certainly something we plan to do, run regional events. So even in Melbourne, we had the idea with all of the dads groups we have here, we have this idea like the Etihad Stadium where they play, AFL footy. It'd be fantastic to have all, say, that like the Melbourne-based dads groups, come along there. It could be like an overnight camp on the footy oval and having a movie up on the big screen there. And you're right, it's all about sharing best practice and sharing ideas. across the schools. So absolutely, that is our aim. But even in the meantime, you know, like an SA, obviously, I could put you in touch with Josh Anderson at McLaren Flat, and all being well, like we're part of this new parent engagement, you know, with learning project through the department. That's going to open it up. So certainly, I would take your counsel on how best to do that. I know you have local partnerships in SA. I suppose in the government system, I'm sure, like in the Catholic sector, like you have your principal networks and so on. So maybe we do it like through that structure, and do it that way.
My other question's just, I guess, two things. One, you spoke about the data being really important. I'm just wondering if there's any data on the impact of the program with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander families, especially.
I'd need to find out that we have a researcher like based over in Perth, Erin Erseg. So I know, I'm sure some of the schools over there, like, you know, will have like Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, you know, families there. So I'll need to, I'm not able to answer that question, but I'll certainly find out.
No worries. Just about an item that came up in our board discussions when we first, when I first raised this and shared the documentation that Mike was good enough to send through to us. And that was, with all the positives that we saw in the program, the one, I guess, question that was raised, and from the documentation, I guess, was that perhaps there was some stereotypical views of family structures that were coming through, even the graphics that were part of the printed materials. And how does the program work, for example, in a single-sex parent family where there's no male parent, and is there a space to incorporate a family like that, or a way to ensure a family like that doesn't feel precluded or doesn't feel disenfranchised by running a program like this in our community?
Sure, thanks, Gail. Absolutely. You know, I should have said earlier, it's an inclusive program, and you're right, families all look different. You know, you get single parent families, you know, same-sex parent families, and not every parent will have access to that male role model. So the way of activities whereby, okay, you have a single mom there, or, you know, same-sex female couple, and maybe there isn't a, you know, a grandfather available, or so they will just come along with their child. So no child will miss out in coming along to an activity if they want to come. So, I mean, obviously we certainly encourage like the families maybe to reach out to a male family member if possible, but if not, it's fine. They come along. So it's 100% inclusive. Has to be.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's got to be a safe environment for everybody.
Cherry, you mentioned that as part of the project, dads could come into the school during school hours to work with their child. I think from our experience of the parent group, they're saying that lots of dads work full time and aren't able to come in during school hours and so on for meetings and things. Have you found that to be a barrier in other schools or part of your program?
Well, you're right. I mean, well, in general, right, the actual dads group activities, right, they're run, say, on the weekend typically. So those dads and kids activities like the paper planes, maybe the camping, you'd maybe run that on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, right? But in terms of that family school partnership piece and just that idea that I shared maybe about the dads coming into the classroom, yeah, I mean, as I say, those dads that maybe have flexibility, you know, with their work, maybe would be able to do that. But if not, like there's lots of stuff that you can do, you know, in partnership with the dad, like at home as well. So you're right, it's not going to suit every dad, but just, I mean, like some dads like may have the capacity to do that. And if they do, well, you know, it's a good idea to bring them in. But in general, it's on the weekend, like those activities have got to work around, you know, like when it suits dads and father figures. So
okay,
that's how we run it in the main, you know.
Good.
So again, you know, this slide, it's all about, you're right. I mean, there's different reasons maybe why dads maybe don't come in. Like there's maybe a lack of confidence, maybe because maybe they might have had a bad experience.
How often?
Sorry, Mike, you're frozen there.
All days when I got into the fruit cups, one or the other. I'm not
Yeah,
quite
he's frozen there. I'll wait till Mike comes back in. But it's all about, as I say, any barrier.
Terry,
Yes, Mike, you're back.
I'm back. Yeah, I'm not the best reception down here. I'm just wondering, how often do the dads groups meet generally?
Sure. Well, I'll just flick forward to there's just some of the activities I talked about, but I'll just flick, there's a slide. Okay. This is in terms of the calendar, the 4 terms. So, okay, like 1 activity per term. Right. Okay. Those dads group leaders. Okay. Those 4 to 6 dads who do the organization. Right. Okay. They would need to say get together, say a couple of times a term, like to do obviously the like organization and planning. I mean, you'd need to say, okay, pick a date each term to run an event, and then you need to start the planning. Say maybe 6 or 8 weeks out. So they would need to get together and decide on the activities that they're going to run. Look, we give them lots of ideas, but it's up to you, the school. Like, your school community best and what they're, I suppose, and what they're more likely to enjoy. So you start 6 to 8 weeks out. You promote the event in your newsletter. You'd have the kids send home an invite to their dads and father figures, and then obviously, like through Try Booking or whatever system you use, you get your RSVPs. Like, you sort your venue out, your activity, and what you're going to do. But it's all about keeping it simple and keeping it free or low cost as well. Like some of those activities that I mentioned cost next to nothing. So you'd have your activity, might last an hour, hour and a half, and then you'd have your barbecue, get all the dads and kids around and chatting and so on. And the event is done and dusted, say, in 2.5, 3 hours. So it's all about keeping it simple and easy to run. But it will help you with that.
schools, where there is some cost in putting those events on, are schools generally covering that cost in your experience, Terry, or are they, doing gold coin donation for the dads as they arrive? How does that work?
Yeah, it's got to be like a self-funded group. I know the group I run, like we would have charged a nominal fee, maybe $10, per family to cover the cost of the barbecue, and maybe in some cases there would have been maybe one of the dads who maybe run it could be a business owner. Like we get some of the dads at our school to sponsor an event, and that would have subsidized it. And maybe, as I say, like a local organization like the Knights or Rotary would maybe come in with some funding as well. But as long as you cover your costs, I mean, the cost of the barbecue, the school may want to maybe use its budget, but typically, you charge a small nominal fee, or someone else, as I say, would maybe donate, to cover the cost. But it's up to yourselves how you do that.
Sure.
I'd be pretty confident in saying that our branch of the Knights would certainly be there with our barbecue trailer and put on barbecue as all part of it.
Brilliant.
Anyway,
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yep.
That'll be great, Mike. Well, there you go. Yeah, it's, as I say, there's lots of ideas, but most of them are low cost. I mean, like I know at Camberwell, like we did a few fancy events. We brought in external providers, but the cost went up, and as soon as the cost went up, the attendance went down a bit. So I know from experience, you got to keep it low cost, so it's not create any barriers there.
Well, at that age, it's all challenging for families to come up with the money, isn't it? With mortgages and other costs.
It is, yeah, especially now as well. So yeah, the last thing you want to do is create a barrier there, but that won't be a problem. I've mentioned like a lot of the research-based content that we can offer dads as well. This is just an example of a suite of ebooks we've developed on the fundamentals of fathering and the different stages of fathering as well. I've mentioned the guest speakers. We also, I don't know if you've looked at our website. We have it's a fathering channel on the website. So we developed that at the beginning of COVID. So with so many dads, working like remotely from home and supporting their kids with their learning, we set that up to connect and support those dads while they were at home. So it's really a weekly program of events, lots of podcasts and videos. We have our celebrity ambassadors like Justin Langer, Adam Gilchrist, and so on, like doing podcasts and videos. So there's lots of stuff for the dads there through that as well. And different, as I say, Steve Biddulph has done podcasts for us, Maggie Dent and Madonna King and other experts as well. So there's lots on that, and that's all freely available, and you're free to share that with your community. And also, like on the website, you can subscribe to it, and then you get sent out the weekly dad tips as well, which is good. So maybe as a suggestion, say in your school newsletter, you could have, say, a dad's corner, and you could put one of the weekly tips in your like newsletter as well, stuff like that, you know. So it's all available if you wish to use it. That's the yes, as I say, just the podcasts and some of the stuff we're doing. You know, Hamish Blake there as well, like different experts there, you know, talking about the development of like the brain, like the teenage brain, and that neuroscience perspective as well. So there's lots of great stuff on that. And the tailored approach, as I say, you know, we work with schools in different environments, small schools, large schools, you know, multicultural schools as well. You've talked about, you know, the Indigenous and Torres Strait Islander, you know, community as well. So we can work with you to adapt the program to suit your community needs as well, because everyone is, of course, unique.
Terry, just as an aside, as a grandfather, I've been invited to my grandkids' primary school to see events and all that sort of stuff, and perhaps grandfathers could be a father figure from time to time if need be, just to help support that. I don't know. Also, that's one question or thought. The other thing is age groups. Is there a general sort of age group sort of area?
Well, in terms of like dads and father figures, or
as far as the students?
well, there's no, as I say, like we've talked about, you know, obviously your school there, like, you know, from 6 months up to, you know, 18 years of age, year 12. So as I say, it's focused on those years across the board. So there's no restriction there. Like within the ELC primary secondary cohort, like we can adapt the program across all those year levels for sure. And certainly encourage, listen, grandfathers, like I've seen plenty of grandfathers at some of the presentations we've done. So the more positive male role models, you know, dads, father figures, including grandfathers, uncles, sports coaches, and so on, like the more the merrier. So there's no restriction there, absolutely not. Like schools are crying out, of course, for more positive male role models. So, yeah, all of the above, Mike. So, yeah, that's great that you're involved like that.
Yep.
Terry, can I ask, you know, the standard child protection question, I suppose, when you're talking about, you know, groups of fathers coming in for an event which involves multiple children there, would it be fair to expect that all of the parents who engage in these events are getting working with children checks, national police checks, for example, or what's the experience?
All right. Well, the experience would be, okay, those dad leaders, okay, the dad volunteers who would, you know, lead the group, okay, they need to have working with children checks. But in terms of dads coming along generally, like with their kids, there's no need for that. It's up to you in the school. But the one point I would make, right, at no time is any dad alone, like with other kids. I mean, it's dads coming along, it's dads coming along like with their own kids and being with their kids like the whole time. So it's just the dad leaders need as I say, like a school volunteers. I know that's standard protocols in school, but if you're volunteering, you got to have the WWC. But yeah, that's as far as you need to go with it. It's all about dads with their kids, doing something, a shared activity at all times. So they're never alone with anybody else.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. I just wanted to share a few points, okay, around, okay, the best way to engage dads. I mean, we know from experience, we've done this for over 10 years, that if you label an event or an activity for parents and families, it tends to be mums that, you know, connect with that. So if you want to connect with dads, you've got to speak to them directly. And dads need to be invited in. I'm sure your father, like schools tell me, like how successful their like Father's Day breakfasts are, and that's because it's specifically for dads. It's invitational. It speaks directly to them, and they turn up on their droves. So it's all about if you do that, they'll turn up. And it's all about the timing. Like we've talked about the timing. You got to work around their schedules. So weekends, they tend to work the best. And give them plenty of notice as well. If you plan your calendar of activities at the beginning of the year and send out the save the date, like they'll lock it in and it's not a problem. So, and again, it's about creating that relaxed, safe environment, like for dads to come in, and be themselves. So those are just some of the hooks, like to get them in, and that's been my personal experience.
Yeah, no, we have the same experience. We run a father-daughter breakfast,
Brilliant.
son breakfast, alternating.
Oh yeah.
And it's always full house. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
there you go.
Invitation.
So you just replicate that, like through this program every term, and it'll be fantastic to see. And then it just, like, once you have them in there, as I say, there's an opportunity then for the teachers to reach out and open up other volunteering opportunities to them. I'm sure you have lots of volunteering, posts that you'd like to fill. So once you get them in there and build relationships with them, there's a lot of really good spin-offs there. So that's just, as I say, I probably said enough. That's just a quick overview. I'll send you more information like this evening. And then I'll send you the registration link. So if we can get you registered pretty quickly, I just need you, Gavin, to sign a letter of endorsement. And then if you can maybe identify a few of those dad volunteers, and I'm happy to have a chat with them on a Zoom call as well, with yourselves. And then I'll hand you over to our, operations team, who will help you get it off and running and plan the launch event as well. And then away you go.
I think I've got a board meeting coming up in the next couple of weeks, so I think I'd go back to board. As I say, I do have the approval of board to move.
Okay, sure. Move
forward with you, but I think it'd be good. I've got much more information, and that PowerPoint, I don't know whether you can share that with us, because that's enormously useful. I could take that to board at our next meeting, so that they feel completely informed about, and then from there, I think recruiting. Sure. I can think of some already, Dan Peterson and even David Kiriakou, and there's people who will jump on board with this. I think.
Yeah, sure, no worries. If you just give me, it's quite a large file. If you have I don't know, a SharePoint or a Dropbox that I can, drop that into for you. Yeah, that's not a worry. I can do that.
Can you email it as a OneDrive link?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, we use OneDrive, so I should be able to do that. Yep. I'll talk to our techie people. Sure.
It's a link rather than a copy, and we should be able to access it, download it.
Sure. I can do that. Yeah, no worries. Brilliant.
Mm.
All right.
That's been enormously helpful. I think,
absolutely. Yeah.
I feel a lot better informed, and we're really quite excited about the opportunity. This is something we've been looking for our dads. So yeah, we're quite excited about getting on board and getting started. So
sounds great.
That's brilliant. No, thank you. For your passion and enthusiasm. For the work. Yeah, it's good timing for sure. And listen, like, you'd be the first Catholic school in the state, so you'd end up being a lighthouse school, like for others to watch and follow as well. So you're right.
That's us, Terry. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Up and lights.
And Mike, thank you, because without the nights, this would never have come to our attention. And obviously the support, the financial support too, makes it initially very easy for us to get engaged with without worrying about what's been budgeted for last year and what hasn't. So really grateful. So if you could pass on to the the powers that be in the Knights, your local branch and at SA level, and mention our gratitude for the support that will allow us to connect with Terry and buy into the project. That would be grateful.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Well, I suppose in a regard there too, we're hoping that perhaps, and it's just perhaps, if there are any dads there that are Catholic dads that go to Mass, then there might be an opportunity for them to look at becoming one of the Knights, so that's not the most important thing. The most important thing for us is that community service and supporting the school and and that whole gamut of activities right across the board. Just Terry, another thing too, we also sponsor a little Montessori group down at Macclesfield,
Right.
Gavin knows about this with Tina down there, and her little group, and we're really supportive of that, which is just fantastic. And we like to go from that level to we have a monthly barbecue at our aged care place with a whole bunch of guys there. And I tell you what, so many fellas have got some awesome stories in their lives that they share over these barbecues, and it just gives them that level of fellowship with other blokes, that is not necessarily easy to get sometimes. So, and that's been great. We probably get about 18 dads or 18 guys to that every month, and it's become very popular. So we like to cover that whole gambit of life on what we can do to help out. So yeah, not a problem. So as far as coming up with the money, when do you need that, Terry? Because I've got to go back to my brothers and see when we're going to draw the check.
Well, I suppose, say by the end of the month, say, obviously a couple of weeks to your board meeting, once you get the AOK, Gavin, it's a very quick process. Like you do it in a day, and then, we'd send you out an invoice at the end of the month, like whatever works, but yeah, also, if you work on that timeline, you'll be all right, Mike.
No worries. Great. All right. Excellent.
Mike, I couldn't help but think when you were talking then about, the connection, the male connection, I think a lot of people get to an age where they lose that connection that they've had through sport. A lot of dads who have had sporting roles or a sporting life that gives them, that male connection through their cricket team or through their football team, when they get to that age where they're no longer playing sport, and then that's gone, and they greatly miss that. And so anything that provides the opportunity to reconnect through another forum, I think is a great thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
100% agree. Yeah.
Guys, I'm really, really stoked that you all could be involved with this. And this little video, Terry, I think is going to be great. I hope you guys, Arresto and Gavin, don't mind it going out to other branches